but because we all need to feel valued. And any person's internal barometer of value and worth comes from how our parents treat us. Our own inner monologue comes from how our parents talk to us. Everything that we feel about ourselves as adults comes from the messages that we've gotten before. So
hey y'all, Katie here with MOMnation, and welcome to another episode of Our Love Story. We know being in a relationship is hard, so Dyanna Isel, certified couples counselor, and I talk through different tips and tricks to help you navigate your relationship and get through everyday life. While you're here on your favorite podcast platform, please subscribe to our channel. Or if you'd like to visit us on YouTube and watch the video, our handle is MOMnation USA. We hope you enjoy the show.
Crazy. Well, hey, everybody. We are back again with my buddy Dyanna here, certified couples counselor. We are here to talk about marriage, and not just marriage, but relationships. Yes?
absolutely.
They're a huge big deal. Like, what's a bigger deal in life?
That's it. All of our relationships, they shape us.
Absolutely. So here we are again, once a month. We're here every month, Q&A with a couples counselor. We call it Our Love Story. And as we do each month, we pull a post, usually an anonymous post. We don't want to put anyone on blast by any means. Usually an anonymous post from the MOMnation Arizona group is the one that we work with most. And we have just that today. So let me hop right into it, guys, so you can see what this post is all about. It's a bit of a long one, so I will read it, especially for those of you that are just listening by audio. But here it's kind of a little bit of an older post. This one came out on Christmas Eve, so we're reaching back a little bit here, but it's a good one, and I'm excited to talk about it, especially because I can speak from the child's perspective in this situation, because I've actually been in this situation, as you know, Dyanna.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. Here's what the group member has to say. I just need some words of encouragement because I'm about to blow a fuse. My boyfriend and I have lived together for a little over 3 years. I have one child. He has one child, same age. I don't have to co-parent with anyone since my child's father lives out of state. He has 50-50. So her boyfriend has 50-50. I got it. And she doesn't co-parent because, okay.
Right.
I'm back. I'm like trying to understand. My boyfriend's child's mother plans activities for her child and my boyfriend for just the three of them. She had an affair on him and filed for divorce. She is still with the same guy. He is not invited either. For Halloween, they went to Vertuccio. Is that how you say that? Mm-hmm, Vertuccio Farms. I never know how to say that one, so I always butcher it. With their child, just three of them. They took their child to Bass Pro to see Santa. Again, the three of them. And they got food together after. When their child celebrated their birthday, her boyfriend was invited. Me and my child were not. I know I sound like a major idiot, and trust me, we have had a lot of arguments about this. But I'm just really trying to justify it being okay in my own head, so it's not such a blow because there are children involved. We planned Christmas Eve at our house. I expressed many times how excited I was that it would be the four of us. She called him yesterday and then told me that she got tickets to Schneff Farms, I'm assuming, and they were going to take their child there tonight instead, then back to her house to put their child to sleep. But then he's going back over on Christmas morning. Going back over on Christmas morning isn't a huge issue since it's been that way since we've been together. He goes for maybe an hour or two, then comes home and spends the day with us. I'm really upset that he's out alone with their child and her for Christmas Eve. I told him that. He said he was sorry. He knew we all had Christmas Eve day together. Sort of. They left at 3 to get ready for the farm. And that he just wants to give their child the most normal childhood after divorce. He said he was sorry. I felt so secondary and that he felt really bad, but he still went. I can't justify it in my head that it's right. He's not married anymore, and when my child and me are not included, it sucks. I'm sitting home alone with my child now, just waiting for whenever he comes home so we can surprise her and my child, I think is what she meant to say. She said with my child, but I think her and my child, so the two kids, together with their gift tonight. She's not his child or priority. But when is what him and I have in our household prioritized over her, meaning the ex, if that makes sense? Am I selfish or wrong? I just need some insight. The children are 6 years old. All right. What do you think about this one?
Well, first, I want to say she's not wrong or being selfish for the way that she feels. She's entitled to feel however she feels, and that's okay. Like, those feelings deserve to be validated. So if you haven't heard it yet, here's your validation that you get to feel whatever way you need to feel, and it's totally okay. I appreciate, her trying to take the perspective of, how the dad, her boyfriend, must feel about it, and trying to make a normal childhood for whatever that means, for the first child that he has with his ex. I can appreciate that. I can appreciate both sides of that. However, the thing that pops into my mind is the normal, quote unquote, normal childhood that he's trying to create with his child, with his ex. Is it realistic? Are those expectations realistic? And how sustainable is it to continue to do that? Because both families are going to continue to grow. They might go on to have more kids themselves too, and they're new couples. And so, how realistic are we setting this kid up for their future of what this lifestyle could or should look like, instead of it just being, my mom, my dad, they're both in different relationships, but they're only spending time with me. It could potentially really be robbing that child of an opportunity for more love and more family. There's additional partners involved now. And if they can co-parent successfully with their new partners, that's only more love for that child. And it's also teaching them, like, look, you can have this too. We don't want you to grow up and get divorced, obviously, but like, if it happens, you could have this too. You could have a bonus family. Like, how cool is that? And so I'm wondering if the expectations need to be recalibrated, instead of just discussing I feel secondary and it feels really crappy. Maybe thinking about, like, what do we want our family dynamic to look like? And can we loop the ex in here to try to work together to create a different dynamic that works for everybody?
I totally agree with that. Totally agree. And looking at it from the child's perspective, because this is, the life that I lived. My parents got divorced before I don't even remember them together, to be honest with you. I had a bit of a different situation where they were kind of like not in the same room together type people. And so that was really tough. I would have loved to have them do things together. I would have loved to spend a holiday with both of my parents and with their others, their significant others coming along too. Because I agree that makes more sense. What kind of picture are they painting when they are excluding people? Like, what does that say to the kid? And why are they excluding people, first of all?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to create tension in the relationship, with not just the romantic relationship between the couple, but the child with their bonus parent now. It's going to create some tension in that relationship, and maybe create some contempt there, like, you aren't my dad, you aren't my mom. So maybe I don't really have to care as much about how you feel, because clearly I've already got this, family all wrapped up here, even though my parents aren't together. I don't really need to take into consideration our relationship and what that could be. So that could certainly create some issues in the future with their relationships as they grow older.
I think that is a great point, because, as we have talked about a bunch, we kind of, model our parents, or, we what am I trying to say? We like adopt almost.
Yeah, we emulate a lot of what our parents do.
Right. And so now, to your point, is this situation creating an opportunity for the child to sort of downgrade the new spouse?
Absolutely.
And so are they going to do the same thing and, not include them in things? And, as they get older, as our kids get older, so they're 6 right now, but as kids get older, they've got like soccer games and dances and, like assemblies and things like that. You know what I'm talking about? Like, there's so many things that parents are invited to. So now what?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I would really, I'd be curious from the the birth mom and the dad's point of view, I wonder if there's some unresolved grief there with the loss of the relationship. Even though it looks like she was the one that pursued the divorce, she was the one that made that decision. I wonder if her expectation, lots of things come back to expectations, right? I wonder if her expectation was, I just don't want him as a partner in my life anymore, but I want him to be an equal co-parenting partner in our lives. And like, this is what I think it can look like, when maybe that's not super realistic. But maybe there's some unresolved grief there about the loss of the relationship and the loss of the family unit that she had imagined in her head of what it was going to be like when they had the child in the first place. So that would be something very curious to explore. Obviously, we won't know that other woman's perspective. Yeah. But that tells me that there could be some grief or some resistance to the idea of having this bonus family, more love for their child. And if there's grief there, there could be some resistance in allowing somebody else in, because they don't want to feel replaced, because they don't want their child to bond with someone else. They want to make sure they're only bonding with their parents in that sort of way. And as I said, in the end, that sort of robs the child of those additional opportunities to feel loved. They're not being replaced. They're getting bonus parents. They're getting bonus support systems in their family. They're getting more people that love them and support them. They're not replacements. And so again, it kind of goes back to what was the mom's expectations about how this separation and divorce and co-parenting was going to go.
Yeah. And I totally agree with you, because in my situation, I got bonus grandparents. Mm-hmm. I got bonus siblings, aunts and uncles. Like, that's super cool.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Our gatherings and our holidays and everything were huge, and there was lots of people, and lots of fun is really what I remember from having those extra people in my life. So so for me, it was great. But what's I hate to use the word norm, because really, what is norm? Like, what is normal?
What is?
But she mentions the dad wants to give the child a normal life, a normal upbringing. Mm-hmm. In your experience with your couples that you see, I'm assuming that you have people or have in your past that co-parent.
Sure.
Like, what do you see as normal? What is typical, I should say?
Really, there's just not really a set typical, because everybody's different, and it really depends on the biggest factor here is the relationship between the parents. Like, how much are we working together here to provide our child with a sense of quote unquote normalcy and health? Like, we want them to see what healthy co-parenting relationships can look like. And if we're attempting to instill that sense of new normal, quote unquote, if there's any sort of guilt or shame involved there on either parent's part, that's going to dictate their decision-making process. Guilt and shame are two of the most powerful motivators in the human condition. They make us do all kinds of things. And so if it sounds like in this post alone that dads may be feeling some guilt about raising a child in a divorced family situation. And so he's sort of just going along with, maybe potentially, I could be reading too much into this, but maybe dad is going along with what the child's mom wants to do to try to create this sense of normalcy. And maybe he feels like he owns a part of it, or he feels shame, or like I said, guilt or something like that, which prevents him from perhaps exploring different options and considering how it's making his current partner feel.
It seems like that, doesn't it? Based on the post and based on the plans that they had. They already had plans for the holiday, and then BioMom came in and kind of changed all of that. So again, we don't know these people. We have no idea. And, we're just kind of speculating a bit here, but BioMom seems to be a little controlling.
And generally, if that is the case, when people are feeling controlling, it's not coming from a place where they just want to be like a raging bee about it. It's because they're feeling anxiety. They're feeling anxiety, sometimes a little bit of depression, maybe a little bit of both, but I need to control something. I need to control something because I feel like so many other things are out of my control. I can't control the time my child spends with my ex's partner. I can't control what they're doing when my child isn't with me. I can't control any of those things when my child isn't with me. But this I can control. If I can convince my ex to do this and this and this under the guise of this is what's best for our child, that's going to come through as controlling. But I have a feeling it's coming from a sense of anxiety. She wants to control something because other things don't feel like they're in her control.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. How do you have any suggestions of age-appropriate conversations to have with a 6-year-old that kind of explain what's going on, at their level, of course?
Sure. I think that before that can even happen, the conversation there has to be a new level setting expectation with the parents. Otherwise, this kid's going to get mixed messages, or they're going to get very emotionally driven messages. And that's not what we want. When we're presenting something like this, any sort of change to a kid's routine or their life, we don't want to come from a very emotionally reactive place. We want to have sort of a plan of where we're coming from and that we're a united front sort of thing. So I really think that's the first thing that has to happen. And then they can decide, okay, this is how we're going to present this to our child, that, this is our new family dynamic now. And you've got all these bonus people in your life now that love and care for you. And, we want to see what that's like. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about, us all going to, whatever, with each other's partners and things like that. You can use whatever, age appropriate language, of course, but getting the child's idea of how they feel about it. And I wonder, based on how long this has been going on, I wonder if the child would be resistant to that if they have an inkling that bio mom is not okay with it. Because kids will definitely pick up on how we feel about things, and they'll kind of just like go along with it. Like, oh, they may not be consciously thinking it, right? But like, I can tell mom doesn't like this, so I don't like it either. You know what I mean? And kind of going along with what mom wants to do as a form to protect, and a form of protection for mom, right? To try to protect mom's feelings. So first, the conversation has to be had between the two parents about what the level setting expectation is. And then feeling out the 6-year-old, like, how do you feel about that? And trying to stay as neutral as possible while they're exploring that.
It sounds like, based on the post, it sounds like this has been a thing for probably like 3 years. So started out when the child was 3. And that's about the same age when I was like a year younger. So I can totally relate to where that child is at. And I can totally relate also to protecting mom, like what you said about that, because that was certainly something that was heavy on my mind as long as I can remember. And can you explain that a little bit? Like, I have learned that children will, whether they know it or not, like, do their best to please their parents because they need their parents, because their parents keep them alive, kind of thing. So can you speak to that a little bit about what this kiddo might be going through?
Sure. Not only do kids want to, go along with what their parents maybe want or desire of them because they take care of them, but because we all need to feel valued. And any person's internal barometer of value and worth comes from how our parents treat us. Our own inner monologue comes from how our parents talk to us. Everything that we feel about ourselves as adults comes from the messages that we've gotten before. So from that child's perspective, it might be protection or shared meaning of mom to be on her side, quote unquote, to go with however that she's feeling, because the child probably gets a lot of her own value and self-worth in doing that. And meeting mom where she's at emotionally, or sharing those same feelings. So that can create, and again, this is speculation, but that could potentially create an unhealthy relationship for child and mom in the future if there is any sort of codependency emotionally being created there. And again, this is speculation. It's just exploring this a little bit deeper on the effect that it could have on this child in the future, if these decisions are being made from an emotionally reactive place by mom.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. let's move over to the girlfriend, the one who wrote the post. Do you see any do you have any advice for her? Should she draw some hard lines in the sand? Like what can she do from her current position?
It's tough because if you drive too hard of a line, it can come across as an ultimatum, right? Yeah. And most parents, if they're presented with an ultimatum that sounds like it's either me and my kid or your kid, I mean, everyone's going to lose in that scenario because a parent's going to choose their kid. You know what I mean? So I feel like this mom that posted it really has to identify, what do I want to get out of this? If it's an ultimatum, then, best of luck to you, but it's probably not going to end up the way that you want it to. I feel like you have to really understand what you want to get out of this. Like, what do you want to get out of this? Is this something that you're willing to compromise on? Is it something that you want to explore with your partner, finding different ways to work this out? Is this something that she feels comfortable talking with the other mom about? I don't know anything about their dynamic or relationship. Mom to mom, like, hey, I love your kid. I think they're really great. I love spending time with her. I'm so glad that, we're at a place in our lives where I have a child the same age as your child, and seeing them grow their relationship, just really sort of creating that shared meeting with mom, and like, hey, this isn't about tugging these kids back and forth. This is about us creating a bigger, more dynamic family where these kids can get even more love. And I would really love your help in trying to accomplish that. Is that an option? Mm-hmm. So I think the poster needs to determine exactly what she wants to get out of this. Share her feelings with boyfriend that isn't just coming across as, I'm coming in second place, which she's valid to feel that way.
Absolutely.
But if that's the only thing he hears, he's probably going to be more resistant to everything else that comes out after that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So keeping her feelings true and being true to herself and her own experience, but also focusing on a solution. It's not just that I feel secondary. It's that I'm not sure this is sustainable for your relationship with your kid, but also our relationship. This doesn't feel like something that's going to work forever. So what feels reasonable? Is there some gray area here that we're missing? Is there a third option here that we're missing in the middle that we can loop everyone in on and make it healthier and happier for everybody? Like, help me help you. Let's brainstorm here so that everyone's needs are getting met, because everyone in this situation deserves to have their needs met.
Absolutely. And I just had a thought while you were talking, and again, we're speculating a lot here because we don't have these people in front of us, but I wonder, and I'm sorry, poster, for saying this, and hopefully it's not hurtful, but I wonder if the boyfriend is really 100% in the relationship. Does he mm-hmm. see a future in this? Does he see, mm-hmm. this lasting throughout years and years? Like, I wonder, do you get any sort of vibe in that area?
I mean, it's absolutely a possibility. I don't know a whole lot more about their situation. I only know what was posted. You know what I mean? That's certainly possible. That I feel like that topic has to be very delicately addressed too, because that can also come across as an ultimatum. Like, if you loved me enough, or if you wanted to be with me, you would tell bio mom, no, I can't do these things or whatever. So that's also, a very fine line. If this poster feels confident in her partner's commitment to her, then maybe it does come back to guilt and shame for him and trying to create some sort of normalcy for his child. But if she is having some questioning thoughts of maybe his loyalty or, his future view of the relationship, that probably has to be explored before anything else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you were talking, I just got that vibe, like, maybe this is something to explore. Maybe he's continuing his life a little separately for a reason. And I'm sorry, poster, I'm sorry if that's hurtful. It's just kind of talking through possibilities here.
Absolutely.
Do you have any suggestions, bullet points, anything that we can share with this poster of what a relationship that thrives in terms of co-parenting looks like?
Absolutely. Calibrate what your expectations are. What do you want this to look like? What do you envision that a co-parenting relationship looks like? Because to be fair, the father of her child lives out of state, so she doesn't have to entertain what that could look like for herself. But what do you feel like is a reasonable, from a very subjective standpoint, what are reasonable expectations of co-parenting? This can be a really difficult exercise because if she's feeling emotional or perhaps even jealous at this time, it's incredibly difficult to be really just objective about it. Like, let's just think about this from a very logical, reasonable point of view. What would be some fair expectations of what this co-parenting relationship could look like? And sharing that with her partner and saying, like, I do feel hurt, not because I feel jealous or I feel like you shouldn't spend time with your child, but because I feel like there's a better way. There's a better way for me to continue to foster my relationship with your child and vice versa. And I feel like there could be some things that we're missing here, something different, something that could be better. And coming from that point of view to her partner instead of just, this doesn't feel good, sorry if this feels offensive or whatever, because I did feel a lot of defensiveness in her post, which makes me sad. Like, you don't need to feel defensive. Like, your feelings they're real, they're valid, they're valid. That's really all I can say. And they matter. Your feelings matter. You are worth having your needs met too. But when we come to our partner with a problem, we have to sort of sidebar the emotional reactivity of it and remain on point, stay on topic to what we're trying to accomplish. Because the moment we become emotionally dysregulated is when we start saying things that we don't mean, or saying things that we can't take back, or yelling, or somehow hurting the other person. And then we just totally blew up the opportunity to find something new. So, poster, I would suggest, coming from a very emotionally regulated place, what do you expect this co-parenting relationship to look like? Do you feel like your partner is open to that discussion? And if you feel like he is, then sit down and talk about it. What is your relationship like with BioMom? Would she be open to having coffee with you and just talking about how much love you have to give her child, and how this different family dynamic might not be what she had envisioned 7 years ago when she had this child, but can we create something new together as families?
I love that advice. And thinking back in my own life, if, either one of my parents would have done that and would have reached out to the new boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, whatever, of the other one, and just like had a sit down and just like, hey, let's go have a man to man, or let's go have a woman to woman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that probably would have solved a lot of the conflicts that arose throughout, 16 years of me dealing with this. Right. So
absolutely.
Totally love that advice. Poster, my heart goes out to you. I have not been in your exact shoes, but I've been the child in your shoes, I should say, or in your child's shoes. And all my advice, and I'm not a certified counselor, but my advice is just what Dyanna is saying, like, get real clear on what it looks like for you and communicate, coming from a loving place, like not an accusatory place, not an angry place, if you can help that. Like, come from a loving place, because really, from what I gather from this post, is that's what she wants. Is she's cool with everybody being together. She wants to be invited and included. And again, I feel like that's super valid. Who doesn't want to be included?
Absolutely, especially when you're trying to create a new family with somebody.
Right. Awesome. Well, I know that this has been very helpful. This was helpful for me. And I know that it's been very helpful for a lot of people out there, because I know you deal with this too, but there are a lot of families that are in this situation.
100%. Yep.
And so is it safe to say this is almost the norm versus, having the family together, having both birth parents together?
It's incredibly common, and it's heartbreaking when the two parents can't set aside their differences, the things that broke their relationship, when they can't set it aside and think about, how is this going to affect our kids, and what impression we are giving them of what families can look like. It shows emotional intelligence when they can set that aside. It shows emotional maturity. And there's a lot of times where the parents don't have that. They don't possess that emotional intelligence or maturity. And unfortunately, it's the kids who suffer. You can separate yourself from your partner for so long, but the kids have to live with it, and they're going to live with the ramifications of it for the rest of their lives and in their future relationships too.
And what are you teaching them? That's something that I always keep in mind when, when things come up with my kid. My kid's going to be 9 actually next week. And, things come up, right, in life. And that's in our relationship with me and my husband. And that's what I always keep in mind is, what are we modeling for him? And is this really what we want to teach him? And that's always a big, big question. So I definitely think that's great advice. I always link your page to the show notes, but what's the best way for anybody out there that may watch our show that would like to get in touch with you, would like to have a consultation? Like, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. If you go to my website, it's DyannaIselTherapy.com. You can click in the upper right-hand corner. There's schedule your free consultation. It's 15 minutes. We can chat about whatever it is that you need, answer any of your questions, and then we can go from there. I'd love to hear from you, so reach out.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Dyanna Isel.
Thank
2023
you.
Mom's Fave winner for MOMnation for couples counselor. So awesome
Thank
job.
you.
Congratulations for that.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. That was so cool to see. All right, guys, if you would like to catch any of our previous shows, this is our 14th show, I believe, right?
I think so.
Girl, we've been talking a lot and it's awesome. So if any of you would like to catch any of our past shows, you can head on over to our YouTube channel. It is at MOMnation USA. That's our handle. Scroll down just a little bit. You will see the playlist, Our Love Story, Q&A with a Couples Counselor. That is Dyanna and I. Check that out. Or if you are more of the audio version, maybe you run a lot, bike a lot, whatever it is, and you prefer the podcast, hop on over to your favorite podcast platform, do a quick search for MOMnation Talk Radio, and do us a favor, like, download, click the notifications, whatever it is on your podcast platform that will allow you to receive some sort of notification when we have new shows. Please do that, because we love our audience out there. We hope that this is helpful, and we want to see you guys thrive. So thank you so much, Dyanna.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.